Hello, and welcome to the Emancipated Citizen Podcast, where two human rights activists bring to you the stories of some of the bravest men and women out there fighting for their freedom and individuality against authoritarianism and repression. Today we are having a conversation with Lilith Hanoum, who is a refugee from Pakistan in Germany, and an outspoken voice for the trans and LGBT community here, especially when it comes to the conversation around LGBT refugees. She is an educator on this topic and has brought to us a lot of valuable insight when it comes to bringing in, integrating, treating justly those minorities coming into Germany, to Europe, to the place where, well, both of us have come to call our home the past years. Yeah. So, being a transgender person in Pakistan, that is a perspective that I honestly, I don't think I have come across in my personal life much, and I don't think it's a perspective that a lot of people like see around the world. So I thought I'd let you maybe introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about your story from the beginning, like chronologically. Maybe start where things began with you, your upbringing, how things like culture, identity, family, and community, like how you came to deal with those things in your early life, and move on to the further development.
Thank you, Zach. So my name, as you introduced, is Lilith, and I'm from Pakistan. As a transgender person or transgender woman from Pakistan, it's different. It's like every other individual. You have your own history, you have your own issues, you have your own challenges that you have to fight in this society. So I had my own package that I had to carry all the time. So I'm in my late 30s now. So I was born somewhere in the 80s and born in a small family, Shia Sunni Muslim parents, not too many brothers and sisters. So I'm the oldest one. So I was the first one there. And I was born in a village. So I'm not from a city. I'm not a city girl. That also when people look at me, they realize that, okay, she's not from the city. As a child, it was, maybe obvious for other people, not for me, that I'm different. How? In which perspectives? Nobody knew that, maybe. Or maybe people knew that, but nobody talked about it with me because they were like, oh, it's a small kid. What do we have to talk about? But I remember vividly that as I was 3.5 years old, around 4 years old, I got myself my ears, both earlobes pierced because I wanted to look like my mother. And where did this come from? I have no idea. I still don't know where does this feeling comes from. And that was the very first time that it became obvious also in the community. Oh, okay, that's a boy, not a girl, because the person who pierced my ears thought I am a girl. That's why they did it. So they knew it themselves. Not sorry. It can happen during my conversation that out of nowhere some of the German words might just spill out because my mind is trained in speaking German. Anyways,
Axel.
So that's it happens. It's something that I have no control over.
I mean, both of us speak some German, and well, I mean, Ben speaks a little bit of German, I speak German, a lot of our audience speaks German. We can clarify everything, so it's no issue.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So and the family was not that religious, but of course they were holding up to the religious construct and all these dogmas around religion. So my mom never forbid me or asked me not to do anything which was not counted as manly enough. I was also allowed to wear henna on my hands when we used to have Eid. It doesn't matter if it was Eid al-Fitr or Eid al-Adha, I would have henna on my hands and very beautiful patterns on it, and I loved it. And it was okay. But as soon as I became 14 years old or something around there, that's when the first time I realized who I am. But I had no words for it. I don't know how to explain it in words. Like, you know who you are, but you do not have a label to put onto it. Because the label in your surrounding doesn't exist and you are village child. So you don't know much of the world. And I was born in the 80s, so I didn't have internet. It's such a big blessing for so many people in today's world that they have to understand that you guys can connect with other people and you guys can find out things that you want to know just on your fingertips. I never had that. I didn't know who I am, what I am. Why are these feelings in my mind? So yeah, and that's the first time I think I told my mom, I think I'm a woman, and I got good beat from my parents. They're like,
Um,
wow,
until that
not who
point,
you are.
we're like piercing the ears and the henna stuff, all of that. I mean, I get the impression that mothers are usually, I don't know, more relaxed about this kind of thing, whereas fathers are a lot more strict. Yeah, was it like otherwise fine or in your surroundings, or did you otherwise experience like societal and social discrimination?
Other from other people and from other
Oh,
relatives. Sorry, from other people and from other relatives, yes. But from my own small family, even up till then, my father was also okay with that because we were not that religious. Religion didn't play a huge role in our day to day life. It was usually, yeah, you pray when you have to pray, you fast, but you don't have to fast all the 30 days of the month of Ramadan. And you must go to the Friday prayers. That's it. And it's not like that you have to wear abaya or burqa, or there was nothing in the house like that. It was, yeah, quite relaxed. But it all changed because I got confused. So it happened that because I was not connecting with my identity and with my religion as I was around 15 years old. I turned 16 and then I was fully matured and sexual being. And being a sexual being, you don't know what to do. The society is telling you, okay, you are a man, you look like a man. So in 4 or 5 years, you will have to marry a woman and then you will have kids. That's how it's usually going on for the last 200-300 years. And that's what I used to get from the society, from the neighborhood, and from all the relatives in the community. And that is when I started to study religion because I got confused. My family was not religious, but all of a sudden now I need to find a definition for myself and security, a sense of stability in my mind that whatever or whoever I am, it's okay to be in a Muslim society, to be around Muslims, and all will be fine. The God is not going to punish you because it was like something that I didn't realize that I am like that.
did you were you aware that there were also other people like that?
Not until I was 18.
Yeah.
That's the drawback of living in a village. You don't have enough people like you around you. Anyways, so once I became to know or I got to know all these things.
Sorry for the interruption. So you were basically trying to find some sort of framework for your identity within the religion.
Yeah.
And did you in any way find something of the sort?
Not at all. Quite the opposite. So I started studying religion from one of the alim, a scholar in the area, and he would give us lectures after the prayer of Maghrib, evening prayer. And once I started learning Arabic, translation of the Arabic Quran, and also tafsir Haqqani and Kunzuliman, all those kind of different interpretations, I got even more confused. I was like, okay, fine. So I wanted to find a balance between my identity and my religion. And there I landed in a place where I started questioning the religion itself. I was like, if it's a religion of peace, it was very common back then. It's a religion of peace. I'm talking about 2002 and 2003, and I was almost 18 years old. And then somebody told me in the religion lessons, oh, there are also third gender people in Pakistan. You should talk to them as well. I'm just saying, talk to them. Like, they didn't want to come over like disrespectful. They were like, oh, you should talk to those people. Maybe you should find something there. And that's the first time I came to know that there are third gender people in Pakistan. And that's a big spectrum of different identities. It's not just the trans women. There are also intersex people. There are also demisexual or demigirls and demiboys and homosexual men who are way too feminine. And then there are also, but no trans men, by the way. That's a different story that had more to do with patriarchy in our part of the world. And also no lesbian, anyways. So I came to know about that. I started meeting people in the vicinity, in the next neighborhoods where they used to live. I was quite bold, to be honest. I was not somebody who was easy to be kept in a cage or easy to be made shy of something. I wasn't like that. I was very bold, and I would ask for things. I would ask different questions. Even when I was learning Islam, I was like asking questions: why a man is allowed to have 4 wives and why not a woman is allowed to have 4 husbands? Or why didn't the gods banish slavery? Why did it was allowed to free slaves, but why would you keep slaves to free slaves? Just let everybody be free. Or the questions like there is this in Surah Nur, I think you have some verses which are about rape and zina, and it was mostly about there should be 4 men who have seen the act of penetration. And I was like, who would be foolish enough to rape someone and look at the act of penetration and don't stop it? Like, what's the going on in the mind? So all these questions also
Actually,
started.
those whole rulings don't talk about rape per se, because as far as I can tell, like the understanding of rape within traditional Islamic context, like they didn't really have an understanding of rape. There's an understanding of zina. There's sex outside of marriage and all of that. But I mean, the concept of consent itself is not really established within early Islamic culture, right, and literature.
But they were trying to some of the scholars over there during those times, trying to reinterpret zina as in rape, and actually it's adultery. It's like sex outside of the marriage, and that's usually for women and also not for men. Actually, if the women are going as adulterous.
And a question about the community of people who were not gender conforming, as we can say. Is that analogous to the Hijra community in India? Is it the same thing, or is it
Yes.
something different?
No, it's not different. It's exactly the same
Well,
thing.
and how different are they treated by society in Pakistan as opposed to India? If you have much of a background as to that background in India, because I would imagine that Islamic culture would be somewhat more harsh on this kind of thing than Hindu culture. Am
It
I
is.
seeing this correctly?
Yes, yes, you are. You are. It's usually not also about. So the Hijra community or the Kinder community has profited a lot from Mahabharat, not the Mahabharat, the Ramayana. Sorry, because it was the god Ram who gave the blessing to the third gender people, that you can bless or curse people and you have that godly powers in you. And that is something that is layman knowledge in all around South Asia. It doesn't matter if you go from Peshawar up until Dhaka, everybody knows from east to west. And if you go from, I don't know, from Srinagar up until Karachi or even up until
So that
Chennai,
understanding is pretty prevalent in Pakistan as well.
it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And I remember when I was a kid, my family respected the Hijra community because they would come at least twice a year to ask for clothes, ask for food, and ask for money. So you being in a village, so you had different kind of things that you could offer to them. So my family was always respectful towards Hijra community. But I didn't know as a kid what is that. You don't know. You see only women who looks different.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah, I mean, respectful is one way. Like, there's a certain like distance type of respect. Of please don't curse me. Like, kind of a strange thing that's outside of our society. But in terms of like, inclusion, that's like there's no inclusion.
no.
I mean, if somebody makes the decision to kind of travel with those people or whatever, it's like
Hmm.
then you don't really have the chance of having a normal career in society and having a normal job and having a family and
Hmm.
that kind
Hmm.
of thing.
That's what I realized when I was 20 years old. Because up until 20, I completely realized that I woman, but I'm a different woman, and I don't know how to realize how to bring the woman out. Let's put it that way. What can I do to live the life that I want to live, or I should live? I didn't know that. I was not stupid, but I didn't have enough resources. Now we are resourceful. Now we have resources everywhere. You just need to just open your mobile and you can find anything you want to. I didn't know that. By the age of 20, I realized, okay, so this is the path I cannot take, because if I will take this path, the only thing I will do is either I will beg or I will go into prostitution. And the third thing that the trans community has to do is to dance on different occasions like marriage, celebrations, birth, or also the circumcision, all those kind of different festivals in a society. They dance, they give the blessings. So the blessings part from the Hinduism is still there, and they ask for money and other things. So I was like, no, this is not what I can do. So I began to study further. And one thing which I didn't talk about, from the class or standard 5 up until standard 12, I was bullied by everybody. My schooling, my entire up until high school, I don't remember a single day I was not bullied for being feminine. And I didn't even know what does that mean. My mom would tell me whenever I go back home, and I would tell they are telling me that I am feminine. So we have different kind of vulgar words for people who are feminine. Like in English language, you call them faggot, or you call them in German Schwuchtel, things like that. And I couldn't understand any of that. What does it imply? So the implication of those words were not there. And my mom would be like, they are stupid, they don't know anything, so you do your work, you should study, and that's it. Don't listen to them too much. Twice or thrice I landed up in a fight within the school. And then my mother has to go to school and talk about things, and I couldn't talk to her what happened. Because people, my class fellows would tease me. They they and children, I know children are merciless.
What?
We all have our childhood, and I don't remember anybody who didn't go through stupid things as a child in the school. You all go through that. So for me, the problem was understanding those things. For me, it was not the problem that I was different. I knew I was different, and my mom knew I was different. It's just that the society was giving me too much pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Kids were giving me too much pressure. And as I became 18, up until I was like 22, 24 something, people would see me wearing a bracelet or something, and or a necklace or something, like somehow trying to live my femininity in me while still trying to adjust with the social norms of being a man. People would tell me in my face, oh, that's haram, you shouldn't do that, that's
And
for
like
women.
throughout this time, at least, in so far as you have lived in Pakistan, I would imagine you made an active effort to basically pass as a man, right?
Mm-hmm.
To live the life of a man, basically. How long did that situation have, like, how long did that situation last?
10 years, from
Oh,
16 up until I was 26.
Mm-hmm.
So before 16, it was okay because I had a late puberty. The puberty started after 15, something like that. I was 16 almost when the puberty hit me. Before that, I was counted or seen as a child. So people wouldn't mind too much about my silly things, whatever I would be doing. It's just silly things. And my mom was okay with everything. It's just
how
once you have
common was it to
facial
go
hair.
through? How common was it to go through
Sorry?
puberty that late?
I don't know. I remember all my school fellows, they already hit the puberty. I didn't. I was still
Ah,
a child, and they were young boys. And
Um,
they would ask me specific questions about body hair, and I would be like, no.
there are
yeah,
some interesting scientific questions about that are not for now, but still interesting.
I mean, I won't look too much into that. I think at my school we had like some boys who were, I don't know, a little late in developing in some ways. It's within the normal kind of variation in human development.
Well, yeah, it
But
happens to everyone at a different time, but yes.
yeah, yeah. I mean, what? So during this time, was it something negative that pushed you out of Pakistan? Was it like more of an opportunity to accomplish something abroad? Yeah, at what point did you leave Germany and come to terms with your true identity and come out and start speaking out? How did that process like kind of take place?
So as long as I was in Pakistan, I realized that if you want to live in this country, you need to be academically fit to find a good job and a status in the society. For me, it was more important or more focused on having a good status, because if you have good job, you have good money, and everybody sees you with respect, a little bit of femininity is okay. Let's put it that it's okay. Nobody's going to kill you for that. But you have to mask yourself as a man all the time. That's the only thing. You don't have to come out. The coming out is something that everybody hates in Pakistan. Everybody knows, but you don't have to talk about it. For me, coming to Germany was mostly about getting higher education. I came here to study. I wanted to do my master's degree in Germany, and they were offering a course which was really relevant for me. And I was like, okay, fine, let's go there. And when I came here, it was culture shock. We have atheists almost everywhere. But for me, it was like, oh God, they don't speak my language. I don't speak their language. I don't know how to live with these people. The food is different. The smell is different. Everything is different. It was a huge culture shock for me.
When you
And
say
it
you
took me
didn't
almost
speak
a
their
year.
language, you mean English or
Mhm.
German?
German.
Huh.
English I would speak. I've studied in
Yeah.
a
Could
English
you
medium school, you call it?
could you get around that because of how widely spoken English is in Germany, or
Germans don't like to speak in English. They don't. It's another thing. About that we can also talk. What are the issues it But most of the people, they do learn English in schools, but then they forget. And there's another thing, which is it's a cultural thing. If a German is not sure about something, they won't do it.
I mean, I feel like it's also kind of a generational thing. Right? Like you notice with older people, it's kind of more the case. Whereas, especially like the younger, like student milieu that like are traveling and want to travel and or mostly like more, I don't know, like left leaning and that kind of thing. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, even the German language is becoming more and more anglicized.
Yeah.
That's
And
true.
And
yeah.
the joke among the countries where English is the main language is that when a German says they speak a little English, it means they speak it better than you do.
That's true, but they don't. Yeah, they don't start the conversation in English. They wait for that.
Yeah.
That you actually poke and push them to speak in English. Then they will do it.
Yeah.
And might do it better than you. Yeah. So yeah, it was a culture shock. Back to your question. And the first year I was like trying to grapple with my situation, how to get along in my day-to-day life. Because in the university it was all fun. It was really good. Everybody would speak in English with you because you are in an international master's program. But as soon as you go outside and want to make new friends, you go to the bar, you go to a club, you go to a cafe, and you want to talk to people. That is another case. You can't talk to the strangers here that often. And I'm happy to be living in part of the Germany where it's okay to talk to strangers. I'm not going to tell which part, but it's fine to talk to strangers in this part of Germany compared to other parts of the Germany. So that's where I had a lot of issues with people. And then I was also trying to get to know the queer community, the queer people, the LGBTI community within Germany. And that was also one issue where I was always trying to fit in, but I couldn't because they would. I do the same now. I'm so integrated and assimilated in this culture. I do the same thing. If there is one person who speaks in English and everybody else is speaking German, I think I'm not going to speak in English unless or until I have to include the person. It's very strange kind of behavior, but I try not to do it, but involuntarily you do it. Anyways.
Well, I mean, big part of our days is like on autopilot, and like doesn't even matter which language. Some days in certain contexts, I'm used to like speaking one language, and if somebody comes to me, like speaks to me, Like I remember one time at work, like we always speak in German, and this guy asked me a question in Arabic, and I'm like, "What? What are you saying? That doesn't make sense." And then that was meant in Arabic. Okay, now it makes sense. So sometimes you do need a bit of a conscious switch to kind of switch from one language to another.
That's
So
true.
I completely understand that. Yeah.
Oh, that doesn't happen where I work. English and Arabic fly around together all the time. Except, of course, I don't know very much Arabic.
So
Yeah.
the both languages are mixed all the time?
Yeah, my boss is Egyptian.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he speaks the Masri Arabi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And gotta say, working with him makes me appreciate your situation a lot too. And since I'm not going to be working there much longer, I can actually say that without having to worry about too much.
Yeah. Yeah. So just a quick question about that. Did you at that point have any Islamic baggage or like problems with like this LGBT scene, or were you at that point kind of more at peace with it and kind of abandoned the more fundamentalist kind of conceptions around gender and sexuality?
So I came when I was 26 to Germany. So at around 22, I left Islam, and I was not
Yeah.
even before that, actually,
And
between 20 and
and
22.
what's interesting, you weren't even like in a mindset of wow, I'm now in Germany, I can I can be free and come out and live as a woman and all of that. That's not how you're thinking at that point, right?
No, not at all. I was still trying to understand myself,
Yeah.
because you have to understand one thing. Your frontal lobe, your brain frontal lobe, it develops up until you are 25. So you're still trying to understand yourself as a young human being, who you are, what kind of personality you are.
If you
Um,
understand. Yeah.
yeah, so I didn't know it. It wasn't developed. I was irrational as well sometimes. I wasn't always rational. I was very irrational. I have made decisions in my life which I do regret. For those decisions, I have been raped, abused, and all that. It happened in Pakistan, and it happened quite often with me. But that's when you are not thinking properly. So when I came to Germany, I just turned 26. So I was still somewhere trying to find out myself and see who I am. And I was trying to talk to queer people here and with the queer community. And that's when I came to know that one of my class fellow is a trans man. And up until that point, I didn't know that there are also trans men in this world. So welcome to a new world for me. Like, that's where everything, it was a snowball effect for me then.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I came to know a trans man, and he introduced me to the community of LGBTI and all those people coming from all over the world who are LGBTI, and I can meet those people. I am, in the beginning, it was lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, and intersex people. And then it became also in front of my own eyes, agender, asexual, and so many other letters within the queer umbrella or within the queer community. That's when I came to know about myself that, oh, I'm not third gender. I am a trans woman, because in Pakistan, the third gender concept is either you are both man and woman, or you are neither nor. From
Interesting.
the it's like the logical concept behind what does it mean to be a third gender person. And for me, in my mind, even I knew it back then when I was 18, that they are third gender people. So in my mind, that was not logical for me, that you can be either both or neither nor. It didn't fit in my mind, or in my
Yeah.
neurons couldn't work around it.
I mean, yeah, it is interesting. Yeah, that certain traditionalist societies, like say in Pakistan, might recognize that, like, the existence of non-binary gender identities, but like more binary transgender people not. And whereas, yeah, I mean, I feel like the direction things are going in the West, at least, like people on the more traditionalist side are making kind of the opposite argument that the non-binary concept doesn't fit their head, but at a certain point, like binary transgender people do kind of fit some vision or some model of the world that they have had. So
Although
that's an interesting dichotomy there. Yeah.
it is definitely worth mentioning, though, that from ancient Greece until probably the late Middle Ages, even later, men being feminine made no sense, but a woman becoming masculine, you go, yeah, why wouldn't you want to do that? Because what made Joan of Arc unique wasn't that she was taking on a male role as a warrior. It was that she was taking on a male role while still being a woman. The it was absolutely seen as a gender continuum, and just male was best, female was worst. Somewhere in between the two was somewhere in between the two.
That's very much true also for the Pakistani society. So men are the best one, and I actually, when I was also in the mosque and studying religion in Islam, for intersex people, according to the scholar I was going to, if you are going for prayers, in the first row it has to be the older men, then the younger men, then the most youngest, and then the kids, and then intersex people, and then after intersex people it has to be the women. And I was like, what? Yeah, because they are between both the genders. I was like, wow, okay. So for them it was easy to understand that, or to wrap their head around it. Okay, that's how it is. But in the Western part, that was also something very difficult for me in the beginning. That was also a culture shock. The binary is so rigid. For me, so ethnically I'm Punjabi. For us, the binary is not that rigid because men and women both wear kajal. Men and women both are going to like wear some sort of scent. Men and women both wear some sort of colored clothes. Men and women both wear some sort of embroidered clothes and also shoes even. They look different, but they are embroidered. And the binary in the West was so strict for me. I was like, wow, the colors are different. Women have to wear different kind of heels. Men are not supposed to wear heels. Then even the cutting of the dresses, it's different. Anyways, that was something I was also struggling with. Why is it so rigid? Why can't a man wear boots which are not made of plastic and they look like the long boots of women? Why can't they do that? And they were like, no, we don't have that. It's only for those who work in the fields. They will have to wear then the plastic boots, the bigger ones, but not the boots like the women wear. You don't see that unless or until you are in the west of maybe Americas and you are a cowboy or something like that. Then you might have knee long boots. Otherwise, you don't.
If you wear, I don't know, I think if a man wears cowboy boots and he's not actually a cowboy, I think a lot of people might make assumptions that he may not be fully straight. Wow.
Yeah, but those are
I know
cultural things.
there's a running gag on How I Met Your Mother about Ted's red cowboy boots there.
Yeah.
Although I actually do have a pair of boots that aren't plastic, but it's because I was a wildland firefighter until a few months ago.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Job wasn't for me, but we'll just leave it at that. That's not here nor there.
In any case, yeah, I mean, I would like to get to, well, your work now and, well, let's say the other part of what of this discussion and what we wanted to talk about, the work that you're doing to help LGBT refugees, and what we can do to help them, what you have learned through your experience, and what you can bring to us. Before we move on, is there something you would like to add insofar as your journey here in Germany, maybe like contact your family coming out, how those things were kind of dealt with? Would you like to say something about that before we move on to the work that you do there?
Yeah, sure. So I came out to my family at the end of 2015, and I told them that I'm a trans woman, and it took me from 2013, so the full year of 2013 and 2014, and almost the full year of 2015. So it took me almost 3 years to realize who I am. I had to learn a lot. I had to read a lot. I had to meet new people. So it was a lot of exchange of knowledge which was going on. I told my mom on telephone. Of course, she was disheartened. So I went to meet her in Pakistan and I told everything. And in the beginning, she was not accepting that, but she didn't ostracize me. And then later, I told them also about Islam, that I have left Islam. That's where she got really scared. She got even more scared when I told her I'm not Muslim anymore than when I told her that I'm a trans woman. That's also strange how we handle fear as human beings. But later it became, up until now, it has become really easy for her. She calls me her princess, and she's okay with me living my true side and my true life.
That's wonderful and heartwarming.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one other thing I wanted to cover before we move on. So in 2018, I saw a bunch of people citing that Pakistan had a law granting rights to transgender people, and people were saying how progressive Pakistan was for doing that. What do you think people who maybe who are certainly in favor of trans rights, but aren't super familiar with what's happening in, we'll say places to the east of Greece, what do you think they should take from that?
So the Transgender Rights Act bill, it was passed in 2018. I was very happy back then. Oh, good. Pakistan has done something worthwhile. You have to understand there one thing, that it came out to be as one of the remarkable and never seen before, not even existing in the West, kind of rights act for transgender persons. But the problem was the implementation of that act. They got it passed, the transgender community got it passed in a parliamentarian session where not most of the parliamentarians were even there. What the West could take from it is that the countries who think that the gender spectrum is a new thing, they need to understand that we always had gender spectrum. The only problem now is it's that you as a citizen, you have responsibilities towards your state, and the state has responsibilities towards you. And that's where we are now having conflicts of interests. There are certain people who have already acquired rights from the state, and they don't want that the gender divergent or gender spectrum individuals who are neither, let's say, conventional man or conventional woman should also get those rights. This is something that Pakistan at least did on the paper when it came to the act, but not in implementation. In implementation, I must say, implementing that bill is not easy. And it came out 2 years ago that when the right-wing Islamist parties, they read the bill in silence, or they got time to read about that, they went all gaga on the streets. There were protests, and that's the first time they ever came to know that you can be a trans woman and you can be a trans man. Before that, everybody understood that trans people are actually intersex people. And that was the only shield behind that most of the trans community and gender queer community was staying behind. And that was the protective shield that fell off in 2022. That's it. It was the end of it. And now all the mullahs and all the muftis and all the right wingers, aunties and uncles and whoever has a grip on their telephone and have TikTok or Instagram or whatever, they're making videos about it. They will.
Ignorance about what being transgender is partly what kind of protected the trans community for a long time.
Yeah.
Because they had this kind of vague understanding of being intersex and all of that, and at a certain point they got to realize what that actually is, and they are against that. Yeah.
It was same
And
even in
then,
Germany.
sorry?
It was same even in Germany. People used to think that gay and lesbian are third gender. Just 100 years ago, Magnus Hirschfeld, he wrote about it. He is one of the biggest sexologists in the 19th century in Germany. And he called them third gender. He couldn't understand that. Or the words changed. Now we call it queer. I wouldn't say he didn't understand. I think he understood it, but he called it third gender. That's what his understanding was. If you are not
in alignment with our modern day understanding of what gender is. So yeah, tell us about your work, your activism, your founding of the Queer European Asylum Network, the people you have come in contact with and helped in seeking safety in Europe. Maybe start by telling us about your journey and some of the things you have learned, some of the things that you can pass on to us.
So I did my master's degree. I'm not going to say in which subject, but anyways, my focus was on the climate change and the migration. So I already have studied the migration laws, the international migration laws, and especially the international refugee and asylum seeking laws. So when I came out in 2015, I was already in contact with a lot of queer activists in Germany, and then came a huge number of people from all over the world when Angela Merkel said, everybody is welcome. And she said, wir schaffen das. We will achieve it. That's another story. And these people, they came with, of course, their own challenges and with their own issues. They were mostly asking for asylum as a refugee, that they should be given asylum status. And because I had studied that, so I started talking to people, what are the issues they are having. And I was also writing my thesis those days. We started going out on Christopher Street Days, which are the equivalent of Pride parades in English language. And we started a collective which was called Queer Refugees for Pride. So that's how it all began. So I started going with other activists as an activist to different cities, meeting politicians over there, meeting people from the local activist circles, and joining them in their fight. And what I realized, many people were putting more stress on the issues that were easy to resolve. In our eyes, it was like, oh, we can resolve it. But they were unable to see the other perspective, that the bureaucracy, they can't do it because they have just one way road. They see only in one direction, and that's it. Everything on the side, they don't consider that. And that's where I started talking about the legal rights on the European level and the legal rights in the Germany, which are given but not implemented. That's how it all began. And together with
Could
all
you,
those
could you
activists,
elaborate on that, on rights that are given but not implemented, about the
we have,
bureaucracy and the
yeah.
difficulty of
So we have EU directives. There are two basic EU directives that tell all the European member states that once people enter your country, you have to, within a certain time period, that's your goodwill, you have to decide what will be the specific or certain time period. You have to look if the person needs special protection rights, and you have to get to know that. So in case of women who are pregnant, it's easy to know that. You get a test, you can know that. They are single, it's easy. In determining age, most of the time you can determine it with your passport, your ID card, or even doing some biological test. You can, with your teeth and all that, you can do that, which Germans usually don't do. And then it's about if you have some sort of sicknesses and all. There is a big group of people who are specially protected people. And it also says sexual minorities based on sexual characteristics. So in that regard, it's the lesbian and gay community and trans community and bisexual community and also intersex community, they are included. So once you determine that, when you're going to take their interviews, you have to give them a person who can translate better, who knows these situations, who knows about the issues of LGBTI people, and who can also understand cultural and also the regional background. So all those kind of things. And the last thing it says, the other one, the EU reception directive, that you have to give them reception center. You have to put them in a reception center which is close to the community centers where they can go, and they should get a separate or secured, it's said secured place where they can go to sleep, where they can go to take shower, where they can go for toilet and all that thing. So that's there. It's the law is there. And it took us from 2015 up until 2018, 3 years, all that fight. In between, I got my job as well with the LSVD, that the German government had to say in words, first time ever, LGBTIQ community in one of the legal policies. Before that, LGBTI people were never mentioned in the legal policies. It was only in the EU directives. That's it. So until 2018, from 2011 directives, EU gave directives in 2011. It took until 2018 to get them in the policies.
Would you like to explain what the LSVD is and what your role there is? What you've been doing with them there?
So while I was also as an activist fighting for rights and going to different cities and talking about these issues with other activists, I was not the only person who was doing that. It's a collective struggle that we had to go through. I got my degree finished. I started working in a different organization, and then I applied for a job at the LSVD as a project manager for queer refugees. So it was mostly about educating the German, we call it Einrichtung, I don't know how to say it in English, the facilities, the German facilities, especially asylum centers, about the situation of LGBTIQ refugees and asylum seekers, and build a group of LGBTIQ asylum seekers who are also activists and give them empowerment workshops so that they can get their voice across horizon, like so that they can work according to the political and social paradigm or framework, framework of Germany. So that's what I did for 1.5 years up until 2020. And after that, I became a certified educationist in these things, that how to talk to politicians, how to talk to different facility managers, and how to talk to the communal politicians and people working in the communal facilities about these issues. And that's what I am doing for the last 6-7 years now.
Yeah.
7 years.
And what I got from what you said basically is, I mean, things seem to have improved. Those predictive facilities have been offered to a lot of those minorities. People are living in protection with certain delays, which on a certain level are inevitable, right? I imagine there's still a long way to go, and there are still a number of problems that a lot of people have to face, especially like one issue that I have come across quite a lot, working with refugees through AI, for example, is, I mean, if you're applying for asylum, you tell them you're gay or something, sometimes they just don't believe you, right? Sometimes, how do you know? How do we know you're not lying? And there things can be difficult sometimes, right?
And it
Most of
makes
the
it a
times.
million times worse that we both know of multiple people who lied because somebody who wasn't lying told us that somebody else straight up told them they were lying.
Yeah, I mean, people also do lie and take advantage and all that. I mean, how do you navigate this kind of thing? Is there any insight you can offer on that point?
Yes. So every human being who is from the queer community is on a different level of their queer identity. That is something that many people don't understand or don't know about it. Let's put it that way. And when it comes to the asylum seeking process and going through your interview, the interviewer is there. There is a translator or somebody who is doing the verbal translation. The law says if you are an LGBTI person, or they don't say LGBTI because of your sexual or orientation or your gender identity, if you had to leave your country, there should be some sort of risk of not going back to your country. And that risk should be to your life, your limbs. I don't know, it's still Christian law, I think. That's why it's still limbs. And your freedom. So these three: life, limbs, and freedom. So people have to actually not prove their identity. People have to prove, because of their identity, these three things are in danger. And they will not get protection from the state, the society, and the family. So those are the main things. It's not about you're gay. It's not about you're lesbian. It's not about you're transgender. Nobody cares about that. The law doesn't care about that. The law is very clear that it has to be a problem for your life, your freedom. Up until last year, the year before actually, 2022, October, there was a practice going on in Germany which was saying that people who couldn't put that, or who were not believed to be LGBTI and couldn't put their case forward properly, believable, they would have to go back. And since 2022, we are like, okay, so if somebody, if I had applied asylum, I would never get asylum status. And although I was raped, I was beaten, and everything happened to me that could happen under the sky. Anyways, if since 2022 October, these people should not be sent back, because if somebody has run from the country and that country doesn't allow you being LGBTI, that is the first strike on the freedom of LGBTI person. that person needs to live freely and practice their sexuality or live their gender identity. So since then, many cases have been revised and many people have got their asylum status. And it was
Well,
such a big fight, which was, and I understood as an activist that if I want to achieve something, I have to sit with people on the table from one side and people from other side, like the queer community together, and the people who are not queer, but maybe they are queer, we don't know. And they're working for the bureaucracy and for the politics to convince them of through the argumentation. Shouting is not going to bring anything. I did shouting for a couple of months. After that, I was like, no, it's not working in Germany. They don't shout. They are not so happy about making protests and demonstrations and all that. They don't like it. It's a different culture. They would be more interested like, let's go to the Gemeinde, let's go to the church, let's go to the community center, sit together, talk about the things. These are our problems. These are the solutions that we put forward. Do something, you politicians. Do something, you bureaucracy. And then you can implement them. So things are now getting better. And back to your question again. So it's mostly about convincing the other person about your story.
mhm.
There are people who can be very convincing and they are not LGBTI. But there are people who are very convincing and they also don't pay their taxes.
Yeah, and it goes the other way as well. I mean, there are people who might not be very good at communicating and have very real stories and struggles. I mean, it's something that I've come across numerous times, and something that especially like makes this problem worse is the is the is the extra step of translation, right? Which, you're sitting there with a person who's supposed to translate what you're saying in German and back to your language, and a lot of the time, like the way that you formulate the things that you said are not said one to one the way that you said. Sometimes they're honest mistakes, sometimes they're misinterpretations. Like, those things happen all the time. Sometimes, yeah, I mean, when I was looking into like the page of the LSVD as well, there's the issue of the lack of appropriate expressions and vocabulary when it comes to talking about those issues, so that the translation back and forth gets very, very fogged in that way. Yeah,
People don't know that.
and yeah, that's also something that I've noticed in my own personal experience. I mean, having some knowledge of the German language, having some presentation skills, I think probably went a long way where others might have faced more difficulties. And like you said, I mean, people don't know that. People don't know the the kinds of steps and complications that this communication has to go through, so that it can be evaluated. One possible remedy to that would be some sort of representation, if not like if not a lawyer per se that is assigned to represent every seeker of asylum, something of the sort that might cost less to the state, something like some sort of representative that just makes sure that those things are going across the right way, would might be helpful. I mean, this isn't a problem only in the one direction, also, like, in the other direction. If the communication isn't up to standard, then people are also going to have better opportunities to be fraudulent and so on. Yeah. I'd be interested to to hear if there are efforts being made in that direction, and the direction of giving representation of that sort, of making the ways of communication more clear and more direct. And yeah, I mean, I know it's a difficult topic, but are we going forward there? Are we moving in the right direction?
I'm a very optimistic, pessimistic person.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, many things are going in that direction. For example, the last time we started Asylverfahren-Beratung, we call it. It's like asylum process counseling. So in every reception center, and we have 66 reception centers in Germany, almost in all the reception centers, you need to have asylum process counselor from the state or from the civil society or the NGOs, who is going to tell you about your rights. So one group of languages, they come, they talk about the basic rights. And what we did in our workshops with the government and also with the other non-government organizations and the facilities, we told them, when people come, talk to your translator and tell them that in Germany, if you have, it's a sentence that we always tell them. So now you're in Germany and you have come to the asylum state center, the reception center. So if you have faced violence and discrimination and fear of life and your freedom because of your gender, your race, your religion, your absence of religion, your ethnic background, your language background, your political motives, your sexual orientation, your physical or mental health, or anything, you can apply asylum here. And if you have any issues because of that, you can come later to me and talk to me. And you have around 10 to 15 people always present there in the social workers' offices in a reception center, and they talk about that. And since then, when we do these kind of workshops, after that we get a lot of questions and a lot of also queries from the people. You guys came here, we started implementing that, and now we have a lot of people who come to us and talk about that. Or they have came out as LGBTI and now they want to talk about this, and they want to know where are the community centers from LGBTI people. They didn't know that they can talk about this in Germany. So there are genuine cases. And one thing which people don't know, I can tell you that also in the podcast, is that regardless of who you are, you can always take one person of trust with you when you go for your interview. And that could be a person, better it is, who understand both languages, your mother tongue and the German language. So that when the interpretation and the translation is going on, nothing goes unsaid, nothing goes unheard. Everything is being said and everything is being heard. All those people who do that, miraculously, 99% of the time they get a positive reply from the office. It's a miracle that when you take a person of trust with you, you have less issues. And when you don't, then you are usually, and that's what we have always encountered, is that the translation people who are working as translators, they don't translate everything. They don't tell everything. Or they tell you, oh, it's disease, it's psychological issue, it's a sin, it's whatever, and you will not get your asylum or protection in Germany because of your gender identity or your sexual orientation. And it has happened so many times with people. And the people who are translators, they are not hired or they are not employees of the government. They are freelancers who are hired for 3-4 hours and nobody takes the responsibility of them. So the federal government the art of having a federal government in which you give not all the power to the center, it's a good thing. I really appreciate it. But on the other hand, to dissolve the power structures, which is very common in Germany, they dissolve power structures all the time. They don't want to keep hierarchies and all that. Nobody is going to be responsible.
No, I mean,
Nobody will take the responsibility because the power is not just with you or with me or with Benjamin. It's everywhere.
that makes sense, yeah, and on a certain level, I mean, yeah, more centralized responsibility does make sense, especially when it comes to where the translators are coming from, what kind of processes they're going through, and yeah, who they're answerable to. Yeah, I mean, a model where we're working for 4 hours and going on to the next job is certainly not like it's not in. It doesn't take the weight of the responsibility here as seriously as it should be taken.
They're not going to
Um,
change the system. We have had so many discussions on this
well,
issue. The basic authority who is responsible for migrants and refugees in Germany, they're not going to change that. That's why they have put in this clause that you can bring a person of your trust to you. Because they say when it comes to the economic reasons, we are not going to involve into the economics of translators as a government authority. Because if you have sensitized translators in some way or other, they are like, we will start favoritizing those people, and we don't want to favoritize anyone. We just take one out of thousands, and we're like, okay, send a person to us who speaks this language. They always tell the language bureaus and translation offices
well,
to send us such kind of people. And
yeah, a pessimistic perspective on a very difficult topic. Yeah,
I know, it's
yeah,
hard.
I get it, but also, yeah. I mean, I think there are a number of things that we can take out of this. Most importantly, probably if somebody is applying for asylum, to seek that kind of help, to find a person of trust who does speak the language, to come in and make sure everything is going the way that it should be. Yeah, I mean, this is a very important point. I know, is there a point you would like to add to that? I feel like we have covered most of the points or all of the points that I wanted to cover from the beginning of this interview. Feel free to expound if you would like, if there are other points to asylum seekers that you you would like to put out there in terms of tips or help or anything like that, other than what we have already discussed. The kind of things that people on the outside in German society, in Western society, can do to show solidarity and so on. I'll leave it to you to express what you have to express on this before we, yeah, before we log out here.
I think Benjamin wants to ask something.
Go on, Ben.
Oh,
You have a
about this?
question?
No, I mean, I heard about this very problem quite a long time ago.
The problem of translation?
Yeah, the problem of an ex-Muslim or queer person going in and the translator actively telling them that they don't deserve asylum because they're sinful.
Or they are psycho, or they are a
Yeah.
disease on this world. Anyways, that's what they do. Yeah,
Which,
to
in that
the
case,
people
I'd
who
really like to have. It really seems like a time for deportation proceedings against the translator, but maybe that's just me talking.
yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. The deportation laws are very very strict. Germany has made laws about everything. Anyways,
Go on, Lilith.
Your point, I would say to the asylum seekers, wherever they go to seek asylum, they should tell the true story. And asylum is the last venue that a person should take. It's not the first step. People are, like in most of the Western countries, not Canada anymore, but in most of the Western countries, we have deficit of the working population. Come to Germany, come to Europe, come to USA, come to other parts of the world, find some job, learn the language, enjoy the culture, enjoy the food, enjoy the atmosphere, and live your life. It's a 1 in a million times gift that we could have gotten. And just look for venues what you can do. And you can do things. It's not that you can't do anything. You just have to look for things which might be fitting for you. If someone else got a PhD admission, it's not that you also have to have a PhD under all circumstances. No, find something which maybe help other people as well and help you. And the last thing, which many people have a different concept about seeking asylum, is that protection is given on the basis of a threat to your life, your limb, and your freedom, not on the basis of economics. Don't ask for protection on the basis of your economic reasons. Look for jobs. That's what I can give you as, because seeking asylum is not easy. Asylum process is one of the difficult things in most of the European countries. Find something where there are so many visa processes. You can find visas, lists. You can go to the different embassy websites. They will give you all the possibilities of finding a visa. Go to the interior ministry websites of different countries in different languages. They have it. They are looking for people who can work there. See what you can do there, and that's it. And I'm the first person to give the option of asylum to anyone. I always tell people, apply asylum when all the doors are closed and you don't know how to save yourself from looming disaster or from a looming danger that you might face in your country.
I absolutely agree on that point, yeah.
Yeah,
It's a difficult, undignified process that it's better to avoid if there's a way to avoid it. Like you said, there are so many other venues to get to a different country and start a new and dignified life there.
Yeah, I just had to tell that to an Indian guy who is married to a Ukrainian woman who is now in a country in the EU. That first of all, you don't want to take up an asylum position from somebody who really needs it when you just want to be able to reunite with your wife and you're not in danger in India. And when you do that, it undermines other people claiming asylum when you're not in danger. Plus, yes, it is a difficult, undignified process.
Well, also you're not gonna get it. It's gonna be a whole waste everybody's time. In any case, yeah. Thank you so much. I think this was incredibly helpful. Hopefully, people take something away from this. Yeah, and I don't know, like have a better understanding of the perspective of LGBT refugees in Germany and around the world. That being said, take care, everybody. We'll see you in the next one.